Yes, people, we're back. Good morning. Doing a bit of a morning show last couple, which has gone down quite well with you people. So we thought we'd do another one. We've had a few busy days. To be fair, I can't actually tell a lie. We've had a few busy weeks. I can't lie. And that's because the Arsenal are still in the Champions League, which we will touch on because PSG is round the corner. Obviously, this weekend, we've got a nice break. And if I'm honest with you, judges, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to make the most of this break because it's going to get very, very busy in the next few days after that. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I feel the same. First and foremost, I don't know how everybody feels about this, but where's this week gone? It's Friday. You know what I mean? This week, this time last week, it was Good Friday. Can you believe it? I can't believe how quick the weeks are going. But there you go. But
mad.
I'm having a weekend off of it. You know what I mean? I'm having. I might watch a couple of semi-finals, see if I'm about, I'm about. If I'm not, I'm not. But if they're on, I might watch them. But I've got no plans to do anything for. We're just going to have a nice little break because, as you quite rightly say, Dan, next week's going to be great, but not great. I don't know if you know what I mean. It's going to be a very, very
nervy
time. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm going to try and not get nervous and all that. But I think on the day, I don't think you can't be it is mad. Of all the times I've been watching Arsenal, this is my third semi-final Champions League in all my time. It's unbelievably three semi-finals. You know what I mean? You think when you look at Arsenal semi-finals, they've been in the FA Cup and League Cup and whatever. This is the third time that we got it, boys. You know what I mean? So it just shows you it's a big.
What were the three semi-finals? Of PSG, Man United,
and this one now,
and
Villarreal,
of course, yeah, the one that mattered. Well, we thought was going to matter. Yeah, that's it. But you think in all your time we've only had three. That's how tough it is.
Yeah. Yeah, even worse for Russ. He's in the chat. He's even older.
Big up to Russ. Big up to Rob Segal as well. Big up to all you guys, Suge, all you guys that are in the chat, man. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, please, people. Look, Lee, it's going to be a nervy one, but we're going to park it just for a minute because there is some kind of news to talk about first in relation to players and incomings and Berta and stuff like that, which I thought we'd touch on to start with. And the first bit of news actually is about Thomas Partey because over the last few days, it's looking more and more likely that we actually want to keep this guy now. And I've got to be honest with you, bro. I'm pleased if we do. Let's read what is being reported. Whether you believe this is reliable or not is up to yourselves, people. But this has come from David Ornstein. Arsenal want to keep Thomas Partey at the club, and they're in talks about a new deal for him. Thomas Partey would be open to an improved 2-year agreement or a 1-year deal plus 12 months as an option. However, he will also consider alternative options in case the deal cannot be struck. This has also come from it being that we appeared that Partey was set to exit Arsenal this summer, but a return to prominence in the side has left Arteta and the club keen to extend his stay. Partey is happy at Arsenal and his family are enjoying living in London. And then this has come from Sammy Mockbell saying that conversations are ongoing as to whether Arsenal offer Partey a new contract. According to well-placed sources, Berta's arrival as sporting director has provided an alternative outlook as to whether Partey could have a future beyond this season. Now, let me just say this quickly before we ask your opinions on this. I think Andrea Berta has already done some good things. Now, I know that we haven't seen it in kind of fruition. We haven't seen it's all words at the moment, not actions. But I think we're looking at a different steer now on a few things. A few different targets, a few old targets are no longer being spoken about. A few new players potentially coming into Arsenal. A new steer on who might be staying and who might be going in relation to Thomas Partey. I think Andrea Berta knows him from Atletico Madrid and thinks that, well, the performances from what I can see this season means he's still our best midfielder, so we keep him. And if he is willing to stay on the same money or even take a little bit lower for an extra year with an option of another year, I think it's a no-brainer to keep him, Lee.
Couldn't agree more. especially when you're losing Jorginho, you're losing the experience of the team, Jorginho and Partey. You've got to replace that, Now, if you think about it, if you can keep Partey and then you replace Jorginho with Zubimendi, that's an improvement. You've got to like a backup in maybe Thomas Partey or Zubimendi at first, I would say, because he's going to take time to settle in and whatever. So you've still got that, and for the next couple of years, you've got someone that when he comes in, he's going to do a job. And to get somebody like that, Dan, it's going to cost you 20, 30 million.
Yeah.
To get a backup, and not as good as Thomas Partey, you know what I mean? The one thing you would say about Thomas Partey is that the minus alongside the thing is his injuries, but he hasn't been injured that much this season, and also he's not going to be week in, week out. He can manage his games next season, and I think this is the greatest thing is like you've got a Champions League game on the Wednesday, a Premier League game on a Saturday. So do you know what, Thomas, you play in a Champions League game, somebody else plays in the Premier League game, and what you're going to get is not a drop-off or the other way round, and that's what you want. The squad needs to be a lot stronger than what it is, Dan, and I think these last 3 games have shown that. I know it's difficult when you're looking at because you've got things to, the Champions League, but the drop-off, is too much at times. And you do I dare say at this moment, Thomas Partey, yes, and I think that Arteta does use him sparingly at times, like he didn't play him at the weekend. But Declan Rice is, with all of these games, is playing every single minute, Dan. Every
I know.
Minute, and realistically, that's not right. You know what I mean? That we're having to play him in games that don't really matter also. But next season we're going to be playing games that do matter, or we should be. And you're still playing him, because realistically, why are you playing him? Because you ain't got no one to cover it. Why is Saliba playing every single game? Because there's no one to cover it. So these are the things that have got to be looked at and improved. You know what I mean? I know Tommy Asu's coming back, that he's got to be fit next season, otherwise that's him gone. But I think that squad has got to be a little bit more stronger, particularly up front and particularly in midfield. I'm not saying it has to be improved, just strengthened. I think that at the end of the day, if you was to say what's our best midfield, you'd probably say Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, and a big question mark over Odegaard at the moment. But that's the 3 that you'd go. That probably ain't going to change, you know what I mean? Zubimendi coming in, or even like Declan Rice going into the holding role, maybe Wanyeri coming in. There's a few little options that you need, but at this moment in time, you've got to be looking at strengthening, and you're going to let Thomas Partey go for nothing, which is fair enough. That's the position that we're in at the moment, and then you're going to buy £30-40 million player to back that up, plus Zubimendi, I think 60 million. And that then could take you away from getting your wide player or your striker. And, so we don't want that being compromised, do we? Like where we're saying, we've got to buy another midfield player because we've let Thomas Partey go and we've let Jorginho go. Who, by the way, Jorginho comes in and does a job as well. So that's got to be replaced. People go, let Jorginho go.
Well, I think what they're thinking is Zubimendi will come in for Jorginho.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
We'll have all 3 of them that can play 6. And Declan Rice can play in that box-to-box role. And then Marino will drop back into midfield. That's what I think will happen. I actually think we need 2 midfielders, personally, because I think we need 1 as it stands. And Jorginho's going. So that means we need 2. And that's if Partey stays. If he does go, we'll need more. So we need to look at that. And I think it's an interesting point you make. I'm surprised, right, that we haven't actually looked at Odegaard in the 8 and Nwaneri in the 10. Just in a couple of these Premier League games. Maybe we will now. But against Ipswich, against Palace, I would have played that, Lee.
Well, yeah, I'd have played that on
against Palace.
Against Palace. I would certainly play it probably against Bournemouth. Yeah, I'm with you on this side. Listen, when we play one thing I noticed yesterday about Wednesday game, was poor as it was and everything like that, we are absolutely clueless about breaking down and playing against a team in a low block. We cannot do it. We cannot do it. So it may come down to personnel, 2 number 8s or something. Something's got to change in there where we got someone that can go past players or something in those areas, because at this moment in time, it just does not work. So we need to sort something out there, because you can hide around the Champions League games, fair enough, right? But let's forget about those Champions League games, the Champions League games at the moment. Go back to how many points have we dropped again at home this season by not being able to break teams down and whatever. So that is a problem, and that over the 3 years is a recurring problem. It's been happening every time. Not winning our own games, dropping points at home. I don't know how many points Liverpool dropped at home. 3, 5 points maybe at home. I don't know. Arsenal were dropping that a month. I don't know how many draws. We lost to West Ham. We've drawn to Everton. We've drawn to Brentford. We've drawn to Brighton. Like Crystal Palace are in there. Aston Villa are in there. There's a lot of points dropped at home, Dan, and you cannot do that at home. But that's been happening for a very, very long while now, because what happens is teams come in there and they've got no ambition to win the game. But, well, not say ambition to win the game, but sit in there and get something from the game. And look what happens. If you do it properly, you get a result. I thought Palace were a far better side than us the other day, because I
wouldn't have minded that if we would have played our B team. But
exactly that. But it ain't just been Crystal Palace, is it? I'm not saying that Everton were better than us, but Newcastle coming in the League Cup done a job on us. Manchester United done a job on us in the FA Cup. So, I know it was over 2 legs the Newcastle game, but we lost it at home. We lost the FA Cup at home. We're losing games at home, we're getting knocked out of cups at home. So that has got to change domestically. In the Champions League, it's a different story. We know that. I think that the way we're set up now, it does suit us in the Champions League, but we've got to find solutions from that light. And if Mikel doesn't, I don't care what anybody says. If Arsenal go on and win the Champions League next season, and we're in this position next season where we're continuing to drop points at home, and we're finding it not very entertaining and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be saying, oh, that's all right. We won the Champions League last year, because big teams clubs don't have that mentality, Dan. You know what I mean? Yes, it's great that we won the Champions League. And listen, if we do it, I'll be celebrating like a mad one for a few days. But come August, that's gone. You know what I mean? The title is what we want, and that's what big teams and big clubs do. So he's got to find a system and a way for that. And I think it is in the midfield, maybe with a striker up front, that sometimes that can cover 1,000 sins, as you know. But I do think that midfield area has got to be addressed, where we've got to be looking to be able to break down teams and not struggling like we are at this moment in time.
Well, look, let's read out some stats, which, in my opinion, are a little bit worrying. I'm not saying it's a shambles, but it's certainly got to be improved. And this is one of them, if I'm honest with you. Our home form really does worry me at times the last few seasons. Arsenal have not kept a back-to-back clean sheet in the Premier League since the opening 2 matches of the season in August. Now, that's mad. That was against Wolves and Aston Villa. Now, Watkins missed 2 open goals pretty much. And if it wasn't for Raya, we probably would have conceded in that one as well, which means we would have had back-to-back clean sheets in the Premier League, which is something we sort of pride ourselves on of the last few seasons with our defensive structure and how good that we've been. The other thing that's really not good is this stat up here, which says that Arsenal have now drawn 14 matches in the Premier League this season, and only Everton have drawn more with 14. Too many draws. Now people keep saying, well, we drew 12 in the unbeatable season. Well, yeah, we didn't lose a game. It's a bit different. When you're losing games on top of drawing 13, you ain't going to win. Yeah. Another stat, which is quite damning, is that Arsenal have now dropped 18 points from winning positions in the Premier League, more than in the 2 previous seasons combined. So in the last 2 seasons, we've dropped points from winning positions only 17 times in 2 years. We've dropped 18 points just this season. So there's definitely regression, Lee, and I appreciate we've got to a semi-final, and I understand why people are excited, and I am as well, trust me. But the Premier League has been an absolute abysmal season, and it just feels to me now like it's like, Liverpool, well, it don't matter. They've won the league. Who cares? No one's bothered. Well, I'm hurting. I don't know why no one else is. I'm devastated that they've won the league and we haven't. We could finish 18 to 20 points off of Liverpool if this continues. That is nowhere near, a title race. We've not actually been in a title race.
No, we haven't this year.
If you think about it, we haven't, right? So we've got to look at our domestic form, and we've got to actually look at the Cups and the Premier League this season and say it's nothing short of a shit show. Let's be honest. We got absolutely turned over by Newcastle home and away in the semi-final. We were an absolute disgrace against the worst Man United side I've seen in history in the FA Cup and went out on penalties. And then we've been nowhere near in the Premier League. And, I spoke to Turkish about this yesterday. The Champions League, the reason that we've probably got further in it than the league is because we have these little cluster of results when we play 38 games. In a knockout competition, it's a little bit different. I think we're set up and balanced more to do quite well in the Champions League, which is why I think we have. I think we've played a different style in the Champions League. I think we've gone more towards the 22-23 season where we've gone a little bit more at teams. Other than Atalanta and Inter Milan, I'd say that we actually give it a right go in the majority of them, and we've seen us put 5 past Real Madrid, 5 past Sporting Lisbon. I think this season in the league, we've been so worried about conceding goals that we've overfought it and conceded goals. That's basically what we've done. We've got so worried about it. It's like, nervy. We've conceded now. Balls. We're supposed to not do that. That's what I think we've done in quite a few games. And I see that against Palace the other night, even when the league's done. Saliba's dicking around on it. Odegaard gets flicked over. And then you've got Raya being lobbed because he's never in his goal, which is a worry, by the way, for me. Why is he playing centre-half all the time? So I just feel like there's these cluster of results that we get. Bournemouth, Newcastle, Brighton. And then we go on a few nice wins, and then because we haven't actually put 4 wins together all year. Did you know that? We've only been able to do it 3 times. Right? We've got 2 wins, loss, draw, loss, win, loss, win. Yeah, draw, win, draw. We can't do it. We can't go on these. We can't just put 5 wins together this season. That has got to change, Lee. And you talk about low blocks. I spoke to Rob about this. People saying, well, what do we do then? Well, Pep's found a way. Klopp's found a way. If he's an elite manager and he's on 15 million a year, he needs to find a way. No excuses. He's got to find a way. Whether it's playing something different in midfield, whether it's changing your style, whether it's launching some balls into box to an actual centre forward who's got some height, whether you're looking at getting more on your build-up play, whether you're in transition differently, you've got to find a way. You've got to find a way. You can't just say, well, they've got a low block. Come on, man.
Listen, this has been happening for many, many years at Arsenal. Arsene Wenger had this as well. He had to, and at times struggled with it. It's not an easy thing to do. Easy beat a low block. If it was easy to do, everybody would be able to do it. So it's not easy. These teams do it because it's easier to defend and attack. And let's be honest about it, Dan. These teams now are well drilled to do it. And they've also got a few weapons that can hurt you. So it's not easy. But you have to find a way, as you say, and good managers do. This season, I think when you look at it statistically wise, it's been poor. You know what I mean? Like 2 minutes, a run at the moment. I think we've take Ipswich out of it. We've drawn. It's been poor, and you have a look at the teams that we've drawn against. Have a look at the teams that we're beating, and have a look at the teams that we're struggling against. You know what I mean? Like realistically, we annihilated Man City. We've beaten the teams at the top because they come out and play a little bit more. It's as simple as that, Dan. It's not rocket science. I think that the one thing I wouldn't get too worried about at this moment in time, I still think there's positives to build on from this season. If you build on it from this season, Like defensively, we're very, very sound. Yes, we've always conceded goals at home, always over the last 3 years. So that's got to change. I think that we're far too open at times. 3 defeats in the season. That's a good thing. I think, you know, when you look at it, we've only lost 3 games. So, and 2 of them we've been down to 10 men. Like, you know, some of the decisions this season have gone against us, but that happens every season with us as well. Like, you know, and you look back at the goal that's disallowed, and it's funny that the 2 goals that have been given for the ball going out were against us, and the one that isn't. You know, it's funny that, but you know, you have to accept that. I do think that there's things in place for us to do very, very well next season if we get the right players in. We have to buy centre forward. I don't think there's any way about that now that we can do that. And the reason I say that, Dan, is because you have to look at the positive. We've had no forward for a year, and I don't think even you can count Havertz as a forward, if I'll be real, a proper forward. And we're still competing. We're still in with a chance. Imagine if we have that striker that's got 20, 25 goals. You know, the other day I watched Isak play, like, you know what I mean? He hasn't always lit up games. I think it was at Aston Villa game. He hardly touched the ball, Dan, you know what I mean? But that's one game. You know, like in another 10 games, he scores every time. You know, do you know what I'm saying? They're not going to do it every time. The striker's got to come in and he's going to be banging in goals every game. But what that gives you is that you know that if he ain't doing it, you've got Saka that can do it, or you've got Marino that can come on and do it. Havertz can come on and do it. Martinelli can do it. So there's lots of positives from the negatives that we've got at this moment in time. It is a massive summer for me, regardless of what happens in the Champions League. Because for me, you know, the Champions League's great, Dan. It is great. You know, it's great. We got 2 games in the next week that we look at it like, yeah. But it's 38 games in the league, Dan, like from August to May. And realistically, since January, I've not enjoyed one league game, really.
No.
It's not been there. You know, so the bread and butter and everything is.
We've got 13 games since the West Ham, and we're about that behind Liverpool, or is it more than that now? 15, I think. So we'll be in a title race if we win the games you're expected to on paper. And I know it's obvious to say that, and you could say that about Chelsea. They'd be second now if they would have won all the games they're expected to, whatever. But Arsenal should have, in those games, been beating Manchester United. We should have been beating Palace. We should have been beating Brentford. We should have been beating Everton. You know, we should have been beating West Ham. These are not games that I look at and go, oh, Christ, yeah, you ain't going to win them. Come on, man. Like
a team that wins the title wins him. A team that wins the title wins him. You know, we haven't put it in since January. And the fact of the matter is it took us 3-4 games in January or February, if you'd be really honest about it, to integrate Marino into what we was doing and whatever, like, you know. Now it looks a lot better, but it took a while. You know, and if you'd be really honest, probably the right decision was not to buy Watkins and go with Marino, if I'd be really honest about it. I don't know if I would have thought that in January, but looking on it now, it probably was. But I still think we needed to strengthen in certain, you know, bring in a couple of players. You know, don't forget, we had a stage this season where there was no Martinelli, Havertz or Saka in this team. You know what I mean? How can anybody have that front 3 completely out? And now we've got 2 of them back and we look a lot better with it. You know, we do. But you had a chance to just get something in at that stage. I don't know who and whatever, like, but you know, we've not since January put in a. We've been poor. It's not been. We haven't put in a. Last 2 years we've had a title challenge. This ain't been a title challenge. We haven't challenged for the title once this season.
No, we haven't. And that's the thing is, I expected us to go to the wire with Manchester City before a ball was kicked again. When Manchester City dropped off, I thought, oh, here we go. This is unbelievable. Klopp's left. Pep's had a nightmare. Rodri's injured. It must be. And they've not even, like, They've just destroyed us, Liverpool. Nobody else has got anywhere near them, to be honest. But look, there's another couple of bits I wanted to just touch on very quickly. Jorginho is one. Looks like we expect him to be leaving. However, it does say that although he's considering interest from Brazil and the MLS, it's also known that he's enjoying learning from Arteta and has been taking his coaching badges at London Colney. Jorginho would be happy to sign a rolling 1-year contract at Arsenal. That's come from Jordan Davis. I think he's going to go, Lee. If he stays for another year, it will be like the year that El Neni had with Arsenal, where he hardly kicked the ball and, he was there just in case. I don't think that we're going to go into next season with Zubimendi, Jorginho, Partey and Rice that can all play in the 6. That's basically having way too many players in one position.
Yeah.
So for me, I think Jorginho probably will be surplus to requirements, of course. And then there was a comment from Don, which I wanted to raise because big up to Don. I've just made him a mod as well. I didn't know that he wasn't. He's saying we should play Lewis-Skelly in midfield. He thinks we'll break down low blocks because he carries the ball, wins fouls. And for me, he'd offer more creativity and goal threats than Declan Rice. Do you think his future's in midfield? And what do you think on Jorginho?
Yeah, I love it. First of all, Jorginho has been a fantastic servant for us. I think he's been brilliant. I think, pound for pound, been like for the signing that he was. I didn't really want him at the club or whatever. Won me over. And has been, every time he comes in, he does a job for us, and if he wants to stay and Arsenal want him to stay, I wouldn't be against it. But you are right. He's not going to get a lot of game time, but he might get some game time in cup competitions or whatever. I still think he's good enough. But I think if I was him, I'd probably be looking to finish my career with a few more games under my belt. That's how I would look at it. Miles Lewis-Skelly, yeah, definitely. I do see him. Could be the one that can break blocks because he goes past players. Does that sort of thing, right? Left foot would balance the team up a lot better, I think, than Declan Rice in that role. You know what I mean? You could actually play Skelly, Declan Rice, and then a holding midfield player at this moment in time, the way things are going. And put Declan more to the right, bursting through and whatever. Yeah, I do see him as his future in there. I actually would like to see him play in that role against PSG. It looks like that we're not going to go down that route. It looks like Mourinho would drop into midfield. I would really want to see Mourinho up front in this game, if I'll be honest. But
what would you do then in midfield then? Would you put Lewis-Skelly or Zinchenko in there and then maybe Tierney at left back or Lewis-Skelly at left back and Zinchenko in the middle?
I'll go with obviously got to play Declan Rice as a holding player, so I would play Miles Lewis-Skelly in a Declan Rice role, and then I'd play Odegaard in his.
And then left back, you'd have Tierney, would you?
I would do.
Yeah.
I would do, or I would go Timber on the left, Ben White on the right.
Okay.
But Ben White.
Is he fit against?
Yeah. I think if Ben White would have been available this week, I would have probably done that. And people got me, I don't want to change the back four around and all that. I get that. But Martin Odegaard's best performance this season, well, over the last few games, been against Ipswich. And that's against Ipswich, but he had the components of Ben White and Saka down there on that side. And I think that combination works a lot better than any other combination. And I think with Timber, Timber can play anywhere. But you're making two changes from defence when you don't have to. And people say about leaving defence alone and all that, I'm not. It's not where it's set in stone and it's clean sheet. It's not like that. You know what I mean? When you go back to us when we won the Champions League. Got to the final of the Champions League, we had a back four that wasn't great when if you look back on it, Abui, Senderos, Torre and Flamini in there. It weren't great, but you wouldn't want to change it around. Ashley Cole, of course, come back towards the end of it. But what I'm saying from that point of view is I don't think it's like, you need to not change it because it's so good. It's settled and whatever. I get it that it is, but I think that midfield battle is where the game's going to be won down. I really do. And Declan Rice over the last 2 games, I think he was the match winner. I know that Saka done this and done that, but his 2 performances and box to box, he wasn't that, and he was all over the shop. I think that if you play him in the 6, you're going to lose a little bit of that energy and running around. So maybe even play Miles Lewis-Skelly in the 6. Keeping Declan there. I think if Jorginho was fit, I think he would come in for this game.
Yeah, I do. I actually think that would have been the easiest thing, was you keep everything the same. Partey's suspended, he comes out, Jorginho goes in, but he's definitely out. I think he's cracked ribs, which is going to be a long time, I think.
Yeah.
When I look at what I would do, it would be to probably put Lewis-Skelly in midfield and have Kieran Tierney at left back. But I don't think he will. I think Lewis-Skelly will remain. I think Timber will remain. And I think it will be Merino dropping and Trossard through the middle, which, to be fair, is probably harsh on Trossard to drop him when he's just scored 2 goals against Ipswich and 1 against Palace, kind of doing his job. But I liked Mikel in the last 2 games for one reason. I weren't massively keen on the Palace performance. However, against Ipswich, he gave a stint to Lewis-Skelly in midfield to see how that worked. He gave a stint to Merino in midfield to see how that worked. He kept Trossard up front. So he's done a couple of things, to be fair, in the last 2 to give it a bit of a mix-up, just to see what he can do experiment-wise for the PSG games, which, to be fair, people will say, oh, he shouldn't just throw the league. But the league's done, bruv. You know, the league is completely and utterly done. So I think he should have been doing what he did, and that was experiment a little bit. Ben White as well, obviously starting his game. I thought he was very good against Ipswich, actually, if I'm honest. I know it was only Ipswich, but I thought he played well. And I think what he will do is he'll play Merino in midfield, and then up top it'll be Trossard, if I'm honest. I think that's what he will do. Yeah.
But the only thing is, I look back, look at the game again. What that does, Dan, is limits your option. There was, even if you go back at the Real Madrid game, how many times we go long from central defence into Merino with a header, with a flicked header, and we would lose that option. Now, the reason that works a lot more, or I think worked a lot more for us in that game, is because foreign teams don't encounter that so much. You know, they do a little bit more now than back a few years ago. But the old school centre forward and the flick on and getting in behind and our wide players getting in, I think is something that that we can do. Now with Trossard, even against Palace, every time we got the ball, reluctant to put in crosses because we haven't got that player that can put the ball in, like, you know. Now listen, we weaved a fantastic goal out of the game against Real Madrid at home with the Saka goal. But even as well as we played against Real Madrid, we had to rely on a couple of set pieces. And I just think that, you know, for me, you need that little bit of physicality up there, someone that can hold it up a little bit better. Listen, Trossard's done very, very well for us, but it's more about movement. And I think that sometimes the foreign teams are more used to that movement, if you know what I mean, than someone that's going to hustle and bustle you, like, you know. So I do think it's a concern, you know. I honestly think that as great as it was against Real Madrid, that Thomas Partey booking just took a little bit out of me, like, you know what I mean?
It deflated me a bit. And what was frustrating was the way that he got booked. It weren't like he went in with a late tackle. He was actually just mouthing off, and Rudiger ate him up, and he completely took the bait. And I mean, I love Declan Rice's reaction, by the way. That's a proper captain, that is, going up to him, telling him off. Where's Odegaard? Nowhere to be seen, because he's not a leader or a captain. That's another story. But when you look at Declan Rice, like his performance there, I thought it was outstanding on and off the pitch with what he did. But Partey, it is frustrating. But look, just some quick news before we do move on from the midfield situation, because Zubimendi is also being linked with a move, and it looks like this could happen, Judge, to be fair. This is the news reported from Jordan Davis, saying that we understand that Arsenal still expect Zubimendi to choose Arsenal over Real Madrid. He's been convinced by the project at the club by Arteta. Apparently, Andrea Berta is really interested in him coming in as well. Arteta wanted Zubimendi to join immediately in the winter window, but only for Sociedad to demand that he remains for the rest of the season. So that does look like that one is going to happen, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I think that will complete our midfield. I don't think we will sign another midfielder. A lot of people saying he thinks that we will, and maybe we will. I don't know. A couple of super chats coming in here. Sue says, imagine 18 points dropped from winning positions. Added to that are 67 points. We can only actually finish now on 79 points, which is quite scary, really, considering last year we finished on 89. We'd be leading the league if we won those 9 games, which we just mentioned. We actually would be. If we would have actually done what we thought we would actually be fine and going for a title. Max, big up to you, bro. It says, hi, Dan Lee. I wanted to personally thank you, AFTV and Lee Gunner, along with other Arsenal YouTube content creators. It's helped me due to my girlfriend breaking up with me after a year and 3 months together. I appreciate it. Well, we appreciate you, man. And I'm sorry you're going through a tough time, Max.
Actually, plenty of fish in the sea, mate. Plenty of fish.
Well, listen, plenty of fish in the sea, but let's also hope that Tuesday night the Arsenal can put a little bit of a smile on your face, mate, if you're going through a rough time. And big up to you as well for gifting out 10 memberships. That's amazing, isn't it, Lee? So thank you so much for that, mate. Top man. Really appreciate that. Big up to you, Max. I just modded you as well, so big up to you, mate. Listen, there is news, of course, that it isn't just the midfield that Arsenal want to look at. We obviously want a striker. Everyone I speak to wants a striker. And it does look like Victor Gyokeres is the guy that we're after, Lee, if I'm honest. There's a lot of reports suggesting that he's the guy. I think Sesko was being mentioned. We obviously know Isak was being mentioned. Osimhen was being mentioned. Ekitike of late was being mentioned as well. But it does look like now that Berta has made Gyokeres the top summer target for the Gunners. Talks are ongoing over an early move in the window. Now, what I like about this is we're being tipped to go early for him because he's got a release clause. I think the release clause has dropped. I think it's around about £70 million or something now. Might even be a bit cheaper than that. This is an absolute no-brainer for me. And if it is a release clause, then it's something we can get done early, Lee. Are you excited by this?
Yeah, I am. And I think you're going to be very happy because I think he's the one that they're going to go for. And I expect that done. And Zubimendi in before, I know like the transfer, they're all done and dusted before, everybody goes on holiday sort of thing. Like, I expect them to be done. June, middle of June, that them be done. I expect them to be on the pre-season tour of Singapore and Hong Kong. I do expect that. No reason why they shouldn't be with clauses and all things like that. So. That should be done, and I think that needs to be done so that they can, particularly with the striker, be got into straight away and worked on and everything like that. Because there's going to be a lot of work put into that because we're going to have to change our style slightly with bringing in a main striker because we haven't done that for the last couple. And I think it needs to be done. And if that comes in, Dan, if that is the one and we get Zubimendi, just them two at this moment in time, that's 2 players that are going to come in and strengthen us in the 11.
Starting 11, yeah.
Starting 11, right? But also that then strengthens the squad because you've still got better players coming off. I think that puts you in a different bracket for next season, and winning titles and things like that, If we get them 2 in early, I do expect us to win the title next season, And I'm not saying that horribly or being cocky. I do. I expect Arsenal to challenge for the title next season. And with them 2 players, maybe another 1 or 2, but with them players, I do expect us to be really pushing. And that gives you the excitement for the season, Dan. I don't care what anybody says. You know what I mean? We had an exciting season a couple of years ago when Declan Rice signed, and it was the season before that we had Saliba. I know he wasn't a sign, but he was sort of new to it and everything like that. Now this is it. This is it. You know what I mean? No more excuses. And I think that. Listen, I think you've got 100 fans out there and said to them, right, what's your number 1 striker? Who you want? I don't think it would be a runaway success on 1. Realistically, you know what I mean? You want to put Isak up there. I think most people would probably go like that one. But I think Gyokeres would be up there. Osman would be up there, and Sesko and all that. But I think that it's one or two for me. Isak or Gyokeres. They're the two.
I mean, for me, Isak's always been my number one, but I've always been aware that it's potentially unrealistic. And you know how much I rate this Gyokeres. So for me, if we was to go and get Gyokeres, I'd be really happy. I wouldn't be like, if we was to go, but I want Isak, and we end up with Sesko, I ain't gonna be happy, Lee. Let me tell you that. Not that I think he's rubbish. Not that I think he's. I don't think he's any upgrade. I don't think he's an upgrade on Havertz much, if I'm honest. Whereas Gyokeres leaves Havertz dead in the water. You know what I mean? So for me, Gyokeres is the guy we go and get. Zubimendi, like you say, coming in, that strengthens our midfield for sure. Whether I think he's better than Partey or not, I have question marks, if I'm honest. But he's certainly going to be long-term the guy that we want in that position, So for me, I think that you're right to say that it strengthens us massively. We need more than that, don't get me wrong, but that's a good start. And if they was to be coming in early, there'd be no excuses for them not to, Lee, because they both release clauses. So it's not like...
Exactly that. And that's what I'm saying. And also, Dan, I think there will be more, but the pressure's off.
Yeah.
The pressure's off. You've got your two main targets in before pre-season starts, so you can work on them pre-season, and then you can tinker, and then you can bring in one or two if you have to, and whatever, and people will be excited about it, and listen, one or two ago, as we know, but ultimately you're thinking to yourself, we've got our main bits done early, and then we can just tinker towards the end of the transfer window, and if anything comes up that we need that is hard to turn down, we can go for So I think it's a massive summer for us. Massive.
It's huge. It's the biggest summer. We say this a lot. It's a huge summer. It's going to be a big summer. This one is massive because we are close now to going and doing and delivering, which is why it is. We know before when we're like, we need a big summer because top four's up the road. We've got to get top four. Well, them days are done now. It's a big summer to win and deliver and win titles and trophies and Champions Leagues. It ain't a big summer to try and catch up. It's a big summer to dominate and to compete and to win. And that's why I believe this is massive. And I think Berta coming in for me now is a huge plus because he ain't here to muck around, Lee. He ain't coming in to say, what do you need me to do? He's going to go boom, boom, boom. Forget him. Not good enough. This is the guy. That goalkeeper you want, not good. I want this goalkeeper. This centre-half you're thinking of getting to replace Saliba. Don't get him. No good. This guy, the one you want. And Arteta's going to have to go, not my job anymore. Your job. That's what you've been brought in to do. None of this, but I wanted Sesko. No, he's not good enough. Gyokeres ready now. Sesko 21 ready in 5 years. Win now. That's what Andrea Berta will be doing. He won't be coming into, what would you like me to do, Mikel? He ain't going to be doing that, And if he is, I want the Cronkies gone because that's not what should be happening here. This bloke ain't coming in to do what Mikel wants. This bloke's coming in to show experience of how he knows how to get teams winning because he's won the Europa League with Atletico Madrid. He's won La Liga with Atletico Madrid. Mikel and co haven't done that with Arsenal yet.
No, they need someone. He needs help.
He needs help. So let him help you.
Yeah, it's like anything, I think Edu has done fantastically well for us and all that, but Edu hasn't got the experience of knowing how to win things at this moment in time, and nor has Arteta. So they've sort of grown together, and it's been it worked. You know what I mean? And we've got to a certain level where we're pushing now, And I don't care what anybody says. Like Liverpool have won this league. Liverpool have won the league without anybody putting any pressure on them. And that's the fact. That's where Arsenal failed. Like we've had the pressure put on us a couple of seasons ago at Man City. Then we had a couple of injuries like Saliba, and we buckled under that pressure. It'd be nice to challenge for a title and have no pressure. We've never had that. You know what I mean? The pressure's always been there. So that is what we got to do. And at the end of the day, I expect us to be really up. Manchester City will buy, and they'll be up there next season. But Manchester City, I've looked at Man City. They're a million miles off of what they were a year ago with the players that they've got at this moment in time. They've still got Haaland, you know what I mean? But their midfield is got to be completely looked at. There's no guarantees that Rodri's going to come back. He may do an unbelievable Timber sort of season. We don't know on that, but You know, I think Timber's season is coming back from an ACL is a one-off as what I've seen. Their back needs to be sorted out. Liverpool will be there and there again with it, you know, because of the basis of what they've got. Newcastle are going to be a threat, I think. Aston Villa will be a threat because one of those teams is not going to be taking part in the Champions League. Man United, hopefully, will be a bit better because I think that helps us, Dan, if I'll be honest. If those teams, you know, Tottenham and Man United, forget about Tottenham because Tottenham will always be competitive against us. But they've not been competitive against anybody else in this league as well. So you need that also, because when you're the best and everybody else is pushing and pushing, that makes you get a few more points in front, like, you know. So we want those teams to become better and compete. Some will say we don't, but we do. But because at the end of the day, you want Liverpool going away to Tottenham and Man United and dropping points, you know, which has not happened this season, like, you know. So that needs to be done. And I think that Arsenal, as we've proven against Real Madrid, and let's go on to that Real Madrid game, go on to that, how good Arsenal actually can be, Dan. How good we can 100%. Be. But we need to prove. I also think that there's got to be a big summer for Martin Odegaard as well. We need to get on holiday, get rested, and come back a different, I'm not saying different player, but a different fitness levels and whatever, like, you know, put on some weight or whatever. There's something not right with him. There's something not right with him at this moment in time, like, you know. He needs a good holiday, a good few beers and a few steaks, and come back, you know, fresh. I think that's what I'm looking at. He doesn't look fresh. He looks a little he looks a little bit weaker than what he done last season. He just needs to
be done with defending him now, really, if I'm honest. I looked at that performance the other night. It's just embarrassing. You know, you're getting flicks off the ball like that. You know, are you strong enough to be in this league, or do you want to need to go back home or something? Because it was embarrassing, really. I think he's had a bad season. A lot of people are getting on his back and they're having a go at me for trying. Why are you defending him? Why are you defending him? Because I think he is a good player. The problem I've got is he ain't showing he's a good player. And he's starting
listen, I think that at the end of the day, he needs a break, comes back, refresh. So don't forget, see, a lot of people forget this. He had a very, very good pre-season, you know, because he was there from the start. And then he got injured very early on in the season. So all that pre-season work he done was stopped, and he had to come back and do another one and everything like that. I think he just needs to get on holiday, get a long break after it, and try and get through these few games, and then we'll have a look at him next season and that. Because at the end of the day, something's not quite right there. He's
he needs an operation, Lee. Him and Ben White need another operation. That's on top of Havertz, Tomiyasu, Jesus and Gabriel that have all had operations. So half our team have just been absolutely obliterated by too much playing time, haven't they? They've all got themselves injured in the last 18 to 24 months, and they've got to come back fresh. Luckily, there's no Euros or World Cup this summer.
Exactly that. It's a nice break for everybody this time around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nice. And I do think that's been the problem. Like, you know, 3 weeks breaks for a lot of these players. Like, you know what I mean? This time around, they're going to get 6, 7, 8, which is what they need. And Odegaard definitely needs that. And then we're assessing next season, because he is a wonderful player. He had a wonderful season the season before, and the season before that. This season, he's not being quite at it. And maybe that's why Arsenal haven't challenged for the title, because he needs to be at his very, very best.
Yeah. Big up to Max again. Legend. Thank you so much for these super chats, bro. Dan, I hope we sign Gyokeres. So do I. Nico Williams, will come on to him. Zubimendi. And the other players we need, I hope we win the Champions League. And I think we will. But I don't want to paper over the gaps in the team. All eyes are on Berta. Yeah, look, if we win the Champions League, we've done unbelievable, because we've done it without Gabriel, with an 18-year-old at left back, with a half-fit Saka, with an underperforming Odegaard, with Martinelli who's fallen off a cliff, and with a centre midfielder up top. That, to me, says it's been genius at work, to be fair, from Mikel. So if we do that, fair play and hats off. What I don't want to do, though, is go, don't need anyone. We'll just
no.
That ain't what happens. That ain't what happens. Do you know what
That's not what happens to a big club. A big club goes, right, I want more of that. I want to dominate Europe and I want to win the league. Listen, if we win the Champions League, it's fantastic and all that, but that doesn't mean to say you're the best team. It doesn't mean to say you're the best team in Europe, and it doesn't mean to say you're the best team in your league, because it's not. You got to win leagues, and then you win the league, and then you win the Champions League, like what Manchester City done. They got the treble. You know what I mean? Like that's. I'm not saying that we're going to do that, but that's got to be the aim. You know what I mean? Like, let's see if we can win.
I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, let's be greedy. I'm not saying that you've got to start going, well, look, like we've got the team to do it now. We've got the squad. You know, as you say, we've got a team that's nowhere near our best team in the semi-finals of the Champions League. What happens if we've got our best team out? What happens if we've got our best team playing week in, week out in the league, putting pressure on and all that, like, yeah? There. I'm not saying that we're going to win these things, but what I'm saying is we've got to try and be greedy. Why is it all right for Manchester United to win a treble? Why is it all right for Manchester City to win a treble? Why not us? We've got the best centre halves in the league. We've got a good goalkeeper. We've got brilliant fullbacks, brilliant wide players. You know what I mean? Like the best midfield player in the Premier League. We've got, like, you know, we need now the best. We could have the best striker, or one of the best strikers, if we get that. Why not? You know what I mean? Like, be pushing for everything, like, you know what I mean? And that's what we've got to be. You know, my realistic thoughts are that won't happen, but that's what I want. I want us to be challenging for everything. I mean, we should be in the FA Cup this week and playing a team that is different to the team that plays in the semi-final. Now, at the end of the day, Dan, right, if everybody's fit, and we was playing in the FA Cup final, the team that goes out against PSG on Tuesday would be the team who's playing the FA Cup, and then there'd be a different team going into the game against PSG. Do you see what I'm saying? But we haven't got that moment because of injuries and whatever. So let's start trying to win lots of trophies. And I don't want this attitude, oh, well, that's all right, we won the Champions League or we won this cup and that's it, like, which we've done for the last 5 years. No. What happens next season is I want Arsenal challenging and winning the league next season, and nothing. And if we don't, it ain't good enough.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And they've not done their job. But look, our summer, I think I've got more reassurance that our summer will be better now we've got Berta on board. I think we need that. Edu, he had his time, didn't work for me. Arteta, he's tried and worked for me. Give this guy to Berta, give that job to Berta now. Arteta does everything on the pitch, which is what a manager should do. Yes, he should have targets and a say on it, but he's had 5 years of a say and it ain't won us anything. So this guy's got to come in now and do the business. Obviously, backup goalkeeper, Zubimendi's been mentioned. Obviously, so has Gyokeres. But there is news as well that we are linked with the Bournemouth centre-half, Dean Hujsen, which, to be fair, I'm a big fan of this, Lee. I really like this kid. I think he's top quality. And I know that people might laugh and say, why are we looking at another defender? But we actually will need one as backup. So David Ornstein has said that we have massive interest in Dean Hujsen. It's strong interest. They remain in contention. They're among the clubs who have met his representatives. Arteta and Berta are keen to sign him. Whether or not Arsenal win the race is unclear because it's still open. I'm not aware of a front runner between them, but Chelsea and Liverpool are also interested. Previously, I think Kivior exiting Arsenal was highly possible. That might be less certain following his rise to prominence. Either way, Hujsen would play a lot of football at Arsenal. Now, this doesn't mean he'll opt for them. There are pros and cons to each of the suitors, all of whom are ready to pay the release clause, which I think is £50 million. But Hujsen and Bournemouth want it sorted sooner rather than later. Now, it sounds to me, Lee, like this guy fancies a little bit of a move. He's done really well at Bournemouth. He looks like a top talent, in my opinion. And he's been linked with Real Madrid, Juventus, Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Arsenal. Do you think this would be a good signing for Arsenal? And do you think that he would come to us knowing that he might not start every game?
That's the problem. The problem we've got is we've got two central defenders at the moment are standouts in Gabriel and Saliba. But, you know, you can play a back three if you want. You know, there's other options that you can do. You can change it around. And also, like as you say, if you're going for titles and trebles, is what we're saying, You know, you don't want Saliba playing week in, week out. You want him to be rotated out and things like that. So listen, it'd be an unbelievable move if we can do that. But you know, it may be that there's bigger teams as well, not bigger clubs, bigger, you know, the big teams as well that may be able to offer him more game time than what we would. That always is a problem.
Look, I think, if I'm honest, Dean Hujsen's probably going to favour Chelsea or Newcastle because he'll get first team football. He'll walk straight into their first team. He'll go partner Sven Botman at Newcastle and he'll definitely play. He's better than both the centre-halves that Chelsea have got, right? So I think he'd be a great move for either of those. Liverpool, similarly to Arsenal, is he going to get ahead of Van Dijk and Konate? Is he going to get ahead of Gabriel and Saliba? I think he needs to be sold that he actually will play games. Because if you look at it this season, Saliba has played way too much football.
Yeah, 100%.
Gabriel has ended up getting injured because he's played way too much football. So I know we're linked with Yoel Harto and Dean Hujsen, but there's probably actually a scenario where both of them could be needed at Arsenal if Kivior goes. Because if Kivior does go, we've got Ben White and Timber at right back. We've got Lewis-Skelly and Calafiori at left back. We've only got 2 centre-halves. We need 2 more to cover them. And I know people complain, but Calafiori can play and Timber can. I don't want any of this movie. There's 2 left backs, there's 2 right backs, and there's 4 centre halves at every other club, right? Well, there should be. Liverpool there is. That's why they won the league. Yeah, stop mucking around with this. But he can play in all 4 positions. But he can play versatile. It's good being versatile, but don't just leave yourself short because he might be able to play there. Because what happens if Ben White's injured and out of an operation? Tommy Asu still ain't back. Timber's at right back. Oh, he's now at centre. He was playing at right back then. Oh, they played Josh Nichols at right. Or Thomas Partey has to go bloody play there. None of that crap again. Go and get another centre-half pairing that can back up for these guys. Because that's what we had when we went unbeaten. People think that we had Keown and Sagan to back up for Toure and Campbell. That's what we had. We've never, ever had this. Well, we've got a right back who can play across the front line and a left back that can play across the front line. We just won't bother. Nah, man. This is why we get short.
Totally agree with you. Listen, the way Kivier's playing at the moment, I'd keep him. And if we do let him go,
that's fine. Yeah.
His price value is going well up, like, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. So, you know, he's been fantastic for us for the last few games. So I think that I would, like, that's the left-sided back. So, well, as you're saying, we haven't got one for the right-hand side. So, you know, listen, that would be a fantastic move. And it would show a lot of intent if we could not only get him and convince him as well. That would be a big signing. And, you know, as you say, then you've got covering every area going forward for the next 4 or 5 years, which would be unbelievable. And then, like, listen, if the worst thing comes to worse and Saliba does say that he wants to go, which no one's saying he does, you can turn around and go, oh, okay, all right, we'll take big money on that. And we've got a player.
Yeah. I mean, look, I do feel that, I mean, it does say here as well, Plettigar was saying that Hujsen's 50 million release clause does not have to be paid immediately, and it's been contractually agreed that the clause can be paid in 3 instalments. Well, Arsenal will be all over that. They love instalments, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that is an absolute steal. I think it's a really good move. There's a few like that this summer. I think Liam Delap at 30 million is absolute steal as well, by the way. If he was to come as a backup striker to Arsenal, I think Newcastle were favourites to get him and Chelsea interested as well. I'm not sure that Arsenal are in for him, but I do think that that's an absolute no-brainer as well. So some of these shrewd bits of business is what I'm expecting Arsenal to look at this season, to be fair, if I'm honest with you. The other quick news as well is obviously a winger. It looks as if Nico Williams is the guy that we want. We've been linked with him for God knows how long now. I'm not 100% convinced that he is the guy that we need, if I'm honest. I think his performances for his club have been okay. Martinelli's had a better season than Nico Williams, from what I'm hearing. For those that watch La Liga, they'll agree. For Spain, he looks magnificent. So maybe he needs all the pieces of the puzzle to complete it around him to thrive. But apparently we're considering him as a key target. They're undecided as to whether he wants to leave the club this summer. Now, there's a lot of talk about him going to Barcelona and staying in Spain. Some reports are suggesting he might even stay at the club. Do you think this one happens, Lee, or do you think we go for somewhere else?
Look, there's options in that area. I think Martinelli's performances over the last week, maybe they go for somebody else. I like funny enough, the wide player at Bournemouth. I like, you know what I mean. So
Semenyo, yeah,
Semenyo, like, so I wouldn't be against something like that. if that comes out. I'm unsure with Nico Williams. I've watched him a couple of times and he's not really, and I know that's a little bit harsh. I've gone, oh, yeah, I like him. I'm 50-50. I see things and all that, but if you said to me, "Oh, who would you prefer, him or Gordon?" I'd go for Anthony Gordon. If I'll be honest, you know what I mean. He's someone.
Well, he's Premier League proven as well, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's impressed me more. So I don't know. I'm not 100% on that one, if I'll be honest. But listen, if that's the one Mikel wants and that's the one and they go and get him, then good luck then. And as you quite rightly say, if he's got better players around him, he may perform better. I don't know. So I'm not convinced. I have a good look at him in the semi-finals of the Europa League and the final against Spurs, hopefully. Hopefully against Bodo, but I think it will be Spurs. And, then if he does the business there, then he's more than welcome to come.
Look, I don't dislike what I've seen, if I'm honest. I prefer Alex Baena at Valencia. I do think he's more of a central attacking midfielder. Cunha, likewise. I prefer Eze, Mitoma, or Semenyo. They're the sort of names I prefer ahead of them. Lookman is the one that I personally would go for. But if Williams is the guy that we want and Berta believes alongside Arteta that he's the guy, let's get him. Again, £49 million release clause, not hard to do. Zubimendi and Gyokeres and Williams, if they're the three we want, they could be easily done, Lee. It's not like we're negotiating. You pay the release clause and you agree the players' terms so they can come. So, and Hujsen likewise, 50 million release clause. If these are the guys we want, it's not hard to do, Lee. And that money, that's what we're saying, 150, that's 200, just over 200 million pounds spent on those players, all release clauses. Hujsen 50 million release clause, Zubimendi's a 50 million release clause, that's 100. Another 50 on Williams, that's 150. And then I think it's 60 to 70. So it's just over 200 for those four players that would all be brilliant signings, to be fair, in my opinion. So I don't think this
signings. And then you're going to get back a little bit of money on some of the sales.
Yeah. And then you can put that on a creative midfielder and another midfielder, whoever it is you need, sort of thing. So, look, that's what I think we should be looking at doing. That's the sort of summer I'm expecting and predicting in my mind. I think 200 to 250 million pound is the bare minimum that needs to be spent on this. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I think that's the sort of sum I'm looking at.
Yeah, 250 million. That's push you, towards a title. You know what I mean? You ain't going to do it on the cheap, Dan.
No, I agree. No, I totally agree. Suge, big up to you. It says, I just hope Arteta doesn't bring number 29 if he's fit for the Champions League. I want to keep Marino up front. It says a lot. Martinelli has improved since 29's out. Do you know what? I'll agree with that. I don't know if it is just Kai Havertz being out that's improved Martinelli, but he definitely has got better since Marino's been up top. And my thoughts on Havertz. I think he's a squad player. I know you really like him. I think he's a backup player. And I think he can do a job for the Arsenal as a squad player. I think he can contribute. Marino's been better than him up top. He has. He has been. Maybe last season, you can say Kai Havertz was better. This season, just alone, you can only judge on this season. Marino's been better than Kai Havertz up top. I never thought I'd say that, so I didn't want him up top. But he has been. I think he's a better finisher. I think he offers more aerially. I think he has definitely got Saka and Martinelli firing in the last few games. And against Real Madrid, I thought he was outstanding. So, look, I think Kai, I don't want to be harsh on him. I know some people are. I don't hate him as much as some people. I know you're a big fan of him. But it's a worry when you're on 290 a week.
Get fit, Kai. That's all I'm saying.
You want him back. But look, I'd hope he's back for the Champions League. I hope he's back as soon as possible.
Well, listen, on the bench. On the bench. I'll be really honest. Yes. Right, you know what I mean? Like 10 minutes to go, and it's 0-0 or we're 1-0 down. I'd rather have him coming on than Butler or Dewey, whatever his name is, or
exactly.
Gal or someone like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely on the bench. But at the end of the day, he's a good footballer. But Marino has done it excellently this season so far, and at the end of the day, deserves his flowers for it. And I can't say any more than that. But and if it was for me, as much as I do like Kai Havertz, if it's the final and they're both fully fit, Mourinho plays. Simple as that.
Absolutely. I agree. Listen, we're going to do more build up to PSG, so we'll leave it there for now. Big up to everyone. Make sure you do me a favour, hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for your comments. Thank you, mods, for sorting out the chat. And it's going to be a very interesting weekend. Just quickly, what are you saying for the predictions of the weekend? Obviously, Villa have got Palace and Man City got Forest. What do you think the final is going to be?
Well, I'd love it to be Palace versus
Forest.
or even Aston Villa versus Forest. I'm not bothered really. Like either one of them two. I'm not really fussed about that. Like, but I think it'll be Villa versus City. If I'm a money man, that's what I think. And then come on, Villa.
I think it will be Palace versus City, and I'm going to go. I think Man City will win it, but yeah, I'm going to go Palace to beat Villa. And I think it will be Palace versus City. And that'll be a horrible season end to Villa. If they end up going out of everything and finishing in the Europa League.
Yeah, they deserve more out of it. But, like, you know, everybody goes on about Emery. He's made decisions that I think cost them the Champions League.
Facts.
Substitutions there. Taking off Marcus Rashford, who was destroying them for whatever. They had chances in that game. Asensio went through, didn't he? But I actually watched the game against Man City and made the wrong substitutions again.
Agreed. I think Emery's a good manager. I think he's got a certain level. I don't think he was ever going to win loads of stuff at Arsenal. I think he was a good manager. I think since going to PSG and Arsenal, he's proven he can't quite get you across that level. But I think he's done a great job with Villa, even if they, have the season that's expected. I don't think it's been a bad one. Last super chat of the day. Max says, Dan, if we sign Gyokeres, Williams and Zubimendi along with Garcia, I still want to look at Joel Harto and Hujsen if Kivior goes. That is squad depth that we need. I totally agree with that. If Kivior does go, Harto and Hujsen will be needed as left and right back, centre back cover. Garcia is being linked as the goalkeeper backup cover. And obviously Zubimendi, Williams and Gyokeres we've spoken about. So I'm with you there, mate. I'm totally with you.
Yeah, that is some squad, by the way, if that comes in.
Oh, God, that is the dream. If we get those sort of positions covered, we've got to go and win. We've got to. So that's what we've got to do. But listen, Lee, I'll let you say bye to everyone. We're going to redirect to Deluded Gooner because I'm on there with him at 12:30. So come and say hello over there. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. And Lee, I'll let you say goodbye.
Listen, have a fantastic weekend. No pressure. Just enjoy the sun shining. Have a good weekend because next week it's going to be all eyes on the semi-finals. Yes, I'll say it again. The semi-finals of the Champions League. And there's no Manchester City. There's no Liverpool. There's no Man United. And no Spurs. They're in the Europa League on the Thursday. But Arsenal are. Champions League semi-final. Here we come. Come on, you Gunners.